with the releasing of Black Clover 372 and 373, there has been, to say the least, a shift in the expectations of Black Clover's final saga. Stretch on the final saga, of course, because now, currently, we are in like the second or so arc of this final saga in Black Clover, and there is a great speculation of more arcs to come for obvious reasons. But that's not what we'll be covering in today's video. What I'd like to cover is some discourse and good and bad situations that came out of these both chapters. And so let's talk first. Acier having water magic. Yeah, to start off with the least one, of course. Acier having water magic. In my last prediction video, for those who watched my prediction video, thank you for listening. Yeah, I predicted that this year might as well, ironically, have water magic, supported by the trend that which the Cleaver Devil's magic attributes are going in, and supported by the thematic evidence of her family being strongly suited in water magic, and her having water magic to use against them as a little emotional destructible tool used by Lucius, seeing as though he's like that, sadistic in his sadistic ways. And so with that, Acier was revealed to have water magic, and I'm happy for that exactly. And as though it might seem very underwhelming for like a big bad villain to have this water magic, the way it was used in this chapter was, to say the least, pretty entertaining. I'm pretty sure that we could. There were some unnamed spells, but just the way that it was utilized and the force, as portrayed in the chapter, how it was portrayed to be very ferocious and strong was demonstrated well. And yeah, her water magic was ferocious, and it stood up against the likes of Leviathan, Noelle, who is contracted with an underwater sea god dragon, and the likes of a water magic from Acier was able to contend against that, which is really goes to show the power of water magic bestowed upon by a devil's power. And that aside, yeah, Acier has water magic, and that's cool and all. But something else I like to cover as well is Noelle. Noelle performance in this chapter was really good. I'm sure you guys have reread the chapters many times and have seen that she really did put up a fight, and she really did have a lot of resolve and a lot of emotion backed by her attacks. And she's a very strong mage, to say the least, and really, really strong. And we see the influence that Asta has placed in her life, and it shows. And she's really strong. And even though at some point in the battle it seems as though she was, losing, which she was, she still never gave in, and she gave it her all like she always does. And her performance was immaculate in this chapter. And over my reread, I've seen that much. And you know, also with the likes of her spells have advanced, and I'm glad. One of these discourses that I like to mention is the fact of people saying that Noelle doesn't necessarily have a lot of spells in her arsenal, and that is true. She doesn't have it like perhaps like and a few noticeable others, but she has spells, but just not as many as you like for her to have, and that's okay. After all, she is more of the powerhouse, and if you take into consideration how she was brought up, her lore, her overall character, it makes sense for her to not really have that much diversity in her spells. Most of her spells are either surrounded around a large scale defense or just blatant raw power, and she's shown to have that much. She is the raw power source of her family, and yeah, we've seen that much. And in this chapter, Leviathan, by default, granted her some unique spells, like the vortex spell that she used, and another one that she used in unison was the tail, where she grew a tail on her body, and she used it to clap loose Acier one side, and that was pretty satisfying to say the least. And I love that idea, and I feel as though there's potentially more spells that the Leviathan gave her by default, and I'm really excited to see more from that. But that aside, the spells that we got are pretty cool, and Acier and Noelle's overall battle prowess has grown so much so that her spells are being used in ways that are pretty unique, like her Sea Dragon Roar, though that's been her most used spell, she still uses it in a way that is, satisfying. And I love that much. It's a very iconic spell, and I wouldn't want to scream for her to get other spells and disregard maybe like, you know, her spell that she always uses, that being the Sea Dragon Roar. And yeah, that's her spell. And I know that there's a little discourse here and there about her not having enough spells, but honestly, I don't really complain that much about it. It's not really about her spells, it's about more on her lore, her power, and she's not really. When you don't put too much emphasis on Noelle having spells. After all, spells don't really directly indicate how much a mage strong, how strong a mage is. So don't really put too much expectations on how amount of spells that she has. But that's for that set of people. Yeah, another one too, the Silva's development. I'm sure others talk about it, and honestly, in my prediction video, I didn't state as to how the Silvas, specifically Never and Solid, would be involved in this fight, and I never thought they'd be involved so much so, and I'm really glad Tabata put into the idea that they could actually, grow to a degree and apologize to Noelle and influence her final spell, right? And I love that idea. I love that little dynamic that was going on there in this chapter, and I'm really glad Tabata implemented it. And yeah, that was a really good, heartwarming moment. I wasn't expecting this chapter, and I'm really glad that Tabata brought it up. Yeah, so the Silver development is really amazing, and how it went out with the final attack, and how Acier saw how her family took the long way around to finally became a true family. And yeah, it was pretty heartwarming, and I really love it. It was a good conclusion for me, to say the least. Some others might disagree, but for me, I think it's a really good way to close out their arc. And yeah, that's the Silvers, and that's Noelle's spell. And yeah, that's what I wanted to cover to that degree. And something else is that has been troubling the fandom, to say the least, is the expectations that people has placed on the paladins, specifically the one that we're talking about now, Acier. Paladin Acier, yeah, Lucius acquired these mages, brought them back to life to be soldiers of the new world that he's gonna bring, right? And a few of us at least, have a lot of expectations of these characters and seeing them as characters that will leave an irreplaceable impact in the story and be around for some time and have a little bit more to say to the characters, have a little bit more, emphasis on their character and how they are. Probably get a little flashback here and there with their interactions back in the past. More insights on these characters. A lot of people expected that much from ACR and whatsoever. But when you really do think about it, this art that we're in, it's really about the deconstruction of character and trying to come to terms with who you are and where you've come. And yeah, we've seen that much with the Silva family, and this is what the paladins are here for. You guys need to settle your expectations for these paladins. There are not going to be some long running villains or of the sort that's going to be a nuisance for coming arcs. They're literally in here in this current arc to literally play a part to these characters' development and wrap up story arcs. That's what they're here for. And that's what they're going to be used for. And potentially, like many have been leading into, they're going to be used as pawns for Lucius's ultimate plan, right? And that's what I'm going to lead into now. Lucius's ultimate plan might revolve around the Tree of Life and it leaving root in the world and causing this effect. We don't know what it is yet, but it's going to cause something. This Tree of Life spell that he's summoning. And the elements, the keys, the factors that he needs to apply to this spell could correlate with the second magic attributes of these paladins, that being Paladin Morgan, Paladin Acier, and Paladin Morris. The magic attributes granted them by the devil are earth, water, and light. Elements that are key into the growth of a tree, of a plant. And with them dying, Lucius, and not losing any composure whatsoever, and losing his strongest soldiers, they call it, just dying by the hands of these mages, make it seem as though, like, the Clover Kingdom is is on the winning side, and they're winning, to say the least. And maybe that's what Lucius, that's what Tabata wants Lucius to make us think. He wants to think that the Clover Kingdom is indeed winning, and Lucius's plan might be, to say the least, destroyed by this Clover Kingdom's efforts. And maybe that's what he wants us to think. And maybe that he's using these paladins as rather pawns to use in a way to plant something or to meet this right factor, the right, what do you call it? Environmental factors to make this plan a success. And with them going out, that might be the catalyst for this spell to work and cause catastrophic event changing something to occur at the final setback of this arc. And this arc will go out with a banger, to say the least. I am positive that it will have a plot twist to some degree, and it'll either include Lucius, Adramalik, and the paladins being used as pawns or something. It's a thing that Tabata does. He does it with the Dark Triad. He uses the Dark Triad as pawns to, be like of a catalyst to something else, and then have one villain only get the huge spotlight, that being Xenon, and I potentially see that being Morgan gonna get a huge spotlight, probably a potentially a longer fight and whatsoever. And with that, it will come to a close, and there be users simply pawns to reinstate a new spell, a new plan, right? And that's what I think the direction of this final arc is going in. And yeah, without further ado, guys, I think I talked just enough about this chapter. That's my thoughts. I just wanted to get out loud. From Acier's magic being revealed to be water magic, the expectations placed on the paladins, Noelle's development, and her siblings. And yeah, that's what I wanted to discuss today. And without further ado, guys, if you'd like to discuss anything of one of these topics I discovered here today, drop down in the comments down below your thoughts. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. Take care of yourselves. See you guys in another one. Peace.